By signing a lease, you now have a legally binding contract. In this segment, we will discuss how to conduct a move-in inspection, manage your relationship with the tenant, and learn about the importance of communication and expectations. A move-in inspection documents the condition of the unit before the tenant moved in. For example, the tenant and the owner check the carpet, walls, windows, and screens as they walk through the unit. It is recommended that the move-in inspection occur before any belongings are brought into the unit.
During the move-in process, one of the biggest keys is to go with that prospective resident to the apartment or townhome and to do the move-in inspection with them. You're going to want to document as an owner or manager, new carpet installed or a new appliance replaced.
When I do a move-in inspection with my tenants, I have a checklist sheet. Essentially what it is it just talks about each room of the property and the condition of it. You know, condition on arrival. Do you agree that it's in good condition? Check, initial. Do you agree that the kitchen is in good condition? Check, initial. Do you agree the bathroom is in good condition? Well, I see there's problem A, B, and C. You mark that down, sign off on it. Documentation. You can't have too much of it. Once you do this for a while, you'll think it's not necessary and might not need it, but it's sure convenient to have that move-in check sheet when you go to do the move out. You know, or if you ever do end up in court over a damage deposit, not that I've had that issue a lot, but if you do, it's nice to have documentation.
The inspection gives you the documentation to assess any damages beyond ordinary wear and tear when the tenant moves out. It also allows you to back up any claims that you make.
An important area to remember within the real estate industry is a little saying that we use: friendly to all and friends to none. You're going to be running a business and you're going to want a business relationship with this prospective and then hopefully future renter. Blurring those lines can put you in a legal position and quite frankly put your asset at risk. Clear communication, written communication, excellent follow-up are always to keep that path clear.
The importance of keeping a business relationship, you know, and try to keep it away from a friendship. The reason that is once there's rent that's past due, if all of a sudden you've become friends with some of the tenants and just gotten to be really super fun and comfortable with them, you might have a hard time cracking down on making sure that they're holding up their end of the bargain.
Keeping good records is important in managing your business. This practice is the backbone of every business and will contribute to its success or failure. Check with your attorney or financial advisor on how long you need to keep records. Types of records include leases, letters and emails, copies of applications and background checks, notes on voicemail messages, receipts, damages assessed, and work orders. Part of keeping good records also includes your practice for documenting rent paid. The landlord-tenant law now requires property owners receiving cash payments of rent to provide the tenant with a written receipt immediately upon payment if made in person, or within 3 business days for payments made not in person.
What I can say about documentation is documentation, 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 documentation. You can't have too much of it, and that's from the initial meeting when you fill out the rental application, if you collect an application fee, collect a deposit or even a partial deposit. All that needs to be documented, and you need to keep a copy, and the tenant needs to keep a copy. Whether they keep it or not, you don't know that, but at least you can say you gave it to them.
There's always a respect factor that has to be present, both ways, both from the tenant side and from the landlord side. And so I think good communication includes not only what's said, but what's not said. Good communication on the what's said side would be the expectations for the landlord-tenant relationship. What is it that you expect in the way of upkeep or notification if something goes wrong? On the what is not said side of the equation, we want to be aware of nonverbals, how we make eye contact or don't make eye contact, and what that communicates to people. Our body language is also a factor in communication. If we're distracted when we're talking, if we're on a phone call, if we are writing when someone's listening, they may get the impression that they are not being heard. Assumptions oftentimes get in the way of effective communication. We think that there's an understanding that has taken place, and it maybe really hasn't.
A property owner should also ensure that a tenant knows that they can and should communicate about repairs and other problems.
I talk to landlord groups a lot, and one of the things that I'll stress to them is you want to make sure that the tenant understands that communication is welcome, right? If there is a problem in the rental unit, you want to know about it as a landlord. So what I think makes a lot of sense for a landlord is the day they sit down with the tenant and sign the lease, do a couple things. First, tell them, look, if something breaks, I want to know about it right away. I don't live there. You do, so I won't know if there's a leaking faucet. And trust me, I want to know if there's a leaking faucet because generally it gets worse if it doesn't get fixed. And so there might be a lot of damage. I think a landlord should demand in writing, tell me, tenant, how do you want to be contacted? Do you want me to call you on a cell phone number? Do I email you? Do I slide a note under your door? You tell me, write it down, and that's what I'll do while you're here. And that kind of open communication can convince the tenant that they should be contacting the landlord, not avoiding them, especially when they have any kind of problem that comes up. The most important communication, landlord-tenant-wise, starts the day the tenant signs the lease, or even when they're being shown the place. The landlord is really enforcing the concept that they want to know when something breaks. Don't hide it from me. I'm not going to be mad that something broke. Tell me, because I got to know that, because I can't fix it unless I know that it's broken. And I'm going to do the same kind of open communication when it comes to me needing to come into your place, because I'm going to need to go in at points during your tenancy. I got to check the smoke detectors, or I got to make sure that the furnace filter gets changed, so I'm going to do that stuff. But I want to know how you want to be told, and unless you tell me, unless there's good communication, that's just not going to happen.
You can communicate with the tenant. It's very important when you do the move-in inspection. Communicate with the tenant how you want to be contacted, how you want, sometimes they have a portion of rent, how you want their rent sent to you, whether you're picking it up or they're mailing it. It's just right at the very beginning when you meet the tenant, it's great to have expectations. Just set expectations on what you want so you're both on the same page.
In summary, this segment discussed many business practices. They included the importance of conducting a move-in inspection, keeping good records, managing the business relationship, and keeping your communication real.